There seems to be a sign indicating that Onyx is already looking for another upgrade yet again, or another update, I should say. And the reason why I think so is because they literally made a post about this. And I'll explain what that is and what I think about it in today's video, even though nothing I say is financial advice, and even though I'm not telling anyone to do anything. However, did you know that Onyx recently made a post how since version 1, they say the Onyx wallet has evolved significantly, and they were asking people what they would like to see when it comes to version 3. So we think about that. When it comes to the wallet, they're already looking at version 3, which seems very impressive because a lot of other projects out there, sure, they make a wallet, they do whatever, they make something, but then they ghost later on in a sense where they make something, but they don't really care about it later. They don't update, they don't try to do anything, right? There's no upkeep, so to speak, right? We saw Onyx this year launch the mainnet of Goliath, their layer 1 blockchain, which is really massive. But even despite all that, they're now already even looking at potentially, right? Maybe version 3 when it comes to the wallet. That's 2 thumbs up for me. You know what this kind of reminds me of, by the way? It kind of reminds me of Coeur d'Alene. Now, let me explain what I mean by this. In case anyone has been to Coeur d'Alene in Idaho, the resort right there, wow. What I first realized about that wasn't how the building was the best. It wasn't that. It was how, basically, it was so well kept, right? The upkeep is tremendous, especially for a building that was built like decades ago. And of course, I'm talking about Coeur d'Alene, the resort, right? That was built by Dwayne Hagedorn, the late Dwayne Hagedorn, I should say. So when I take a look at that right there, it just kind of reminds me of Onyx because Coeur d'Alene, the resort, is incredibly well kept, in my opinion. Like the maintenance is really amazing. And Onyx, when it comes to the things they're building and the things they're launching, it feels like the upkeep is very good as well, to me at least, because they're still looking to update and looking to upgrade, right? As evidently that we've seen in their recent posts where they're already thinking about version 3 when it comes to the wallet. It's like for me, sometimes when I go to a resort or like a hotel or something like that, usually if it's like built decades ago, typically the upkeep isn't really that good. It usually feels like very tired. It just feels like that it wasn't really taken care of. But wow, Coeur d'Alene, it's just really fantastic, right? How they just kept, the upkeep of that place really fantastic. It just really reminds me of Onyx. But that's just kind of the analogy that I have. Besides the point, comment down below though, if you've ever been to Coeur d'Alene in Idaho. I don't know too many people who've been there, but it'd be pretty interesting to see who has. But besides that point, when I take a look at Onyx right there, I find it to be pretty impressive because again, a lot of other projects out there, even of Onyx's size, right? When they build something, they usually ghost later on. They don't update much. So I do like seeing this. Now, granted though, what I like as well is that they're asking the community what they would like to see. Because take a look at other projects out there, they're not going to be asking the community, they don't really care. But what I like about Onyx is that they're actually thinking about, hey, you know what? What features could we add when it comes to version 3? Maybe. When will they launch it? Who knows? Are they really going to listen to everything when it comes to the suggestions from the community? Who knows? We'll wait and see, but at least they're already thinking about that, so I do like seeing that. Now, granted as well, though, I mean, Onyx, the recovery hasn't been that fantastic, of course, just almost 3% in the past 7 days. Who really cares, I suppose? Almost 11% in the past 30 days. Yeah, I mean, no one really cares about that, I'm assuming. But we have to consider as well, right? The way I view it is that the longer that Onyx stays at around a 200 million market cap, the more I wouldn't really complain, which may sound very counterintuitive, like, why? Some people have been asking me that. Well, it's because it's just more time for me to dollar cost average, basically, at a level in which is around 5 times lower when compared to where it once was last year, which is actually true, right? I mean, if we take a look at it, Onyx last year was around a billion in terms of market cap at a certain point, but now it's around 200 million. One thing I do know for sure, though, is that we've seen Onyx before at a 1 billion market cap last year, and we're around 5 times lower than that as of right now. If I just want to put a pure hypothetical, right? If let's just say we assume that the all-time high when it comes to Bitcoin is 100 grand, which it isn't, but let's just say for simplicity's sake, we assume that is the case. Just for a simpler calculation, right? if let's say Bitcoin for whatever reason had to pull back to 20 grand, I know a lot of people out there personally that would be very happy that they would be dollar cost averaging this pure hypothetical when it comes to Bitcoin at 20 grand. And the reason why is because in this random hypothetical, 20 grand would be 5 times away from 100 grand. And a lot of people out there would really like that in some cases that I do know. So when it comes to Onyx, I kind of view it no different. It's around a 200 million market cap, 5 times lower than a billion in terms of market cap. Why would I find it to be a bad thing? I don't know, right? The longer I can dollar cost average into a project that I'm a fan of at a lower point, I don't know why I'd complain. That's just my mentality, but I'm not telling anyone to anything. And of course, I never just only hold one project, but Onyx is just one of the projects that I'm a fan of. Now, some people like to ask me, well, if you're so happy with like that movement, basically from like 200 million to hypothetically around a billion, some people like to ask me, oh wow, if you're so happy with that, why not take a look at a microcap? Sometimes they like to ask me that question. But to me, I'm not such a fan of a microcap because if let's say in just a random hypothetical, right? Let's say a microcap does, I don't know, a 600% movement in just a random hypothetical. Now, if I'm just happy with that type of movement right there, I don't know why I would even care about a microcap because many projects out there that are in the top 100, in the top 200, in the top even 300, a lot of them are down like around 5, 6, or 7 times lower than where they once were. Let's just say comparatively speaking to last year or even the year before, like in 2024. If that type of movement is what makes me happy, like a hypothetical project that's around 5 times lower, or let's say 7 times lower, whatever the case may be, if that type of movement is all that makes me happy, I don't know why I would try to look for that through a microcap. It just kind of makes no sense to me because I'm all about just hypothetically taking a look at what is the path of maybe least resistance, right? The way I view it is this. Sure, I suppose I could try to look for ice in a mountain somewhere, right? Like I try to climb a mountain and try to look for ice. Or I could just go to the grocery store or just, go to my fridge. There's an ice maker. Like, okay, sure, the end product is the same, right? I'm looking for ice either way. But there's one that's way easier. I could just go to my fridge or even, you know what? If I want to challenge myself a little bit, I could just go to a grocery store. Or take the most difficult path, I suppose, and go up to a mountain and try to look for ice. I view that kind of like a microcap. I don't really need to do that though, right? I can try to get ice other ways, like an ice cube. I'm not talking about the musician Ice Cube. I'm talking about like the ice cube that you actually put in like a drink or something like that. You know what I mean? That's just my point of view. I mean, there's like, I think easier ways for me to get an ice cube as opposed to me going up to a mountain or something like that, right? But that's just my point of view. So I just kind of view it a little bit no different here. But besides that point though, when it comes to Onyx, it's one of the more established projects out there that's focused on the global trade and finance space. I'm still a fan. I see no reason for me to give up, personally, but I'm not telling anyone to do anything. However, I don't mind waiting if I like the fundamentals of the project, so, here we are, right? I'm still waiting. And I guess there's really nothing else I can do beyond that other than wait. But I feel like waiting is the least of my concerns because the market sentiment changing, that requires me waiting. We've seen historically how bear markets and market downturns, sometimes they're not permanent in some cases, right? So what do I have to do? Maybe I have to wait, but I don't mind waiting if I like the project, so I'll wait. If the only thing I have to do is wait, yeah, I feel like that's the least of my worries, but even besides that point though, when it comes to Onyx, it's been a pretty quick update because they made that post, even hinting, giving a sign basically of how they're already thinking about version 3 when it comes to the wallet, so naturally, I wanted to make a video on it. However, I'll be sure to make more moving forward. So I want to say thank you for watching, and I hope you all have a very nice day. It's Willie the Captain. I'm out. Peace. Bye.